Good morning and welcome to the next segment of the Bay Street Jewelers Repair Department. Today we're actually going to be doing two different things. We're going to be talking about replacing batteries, and we're going to talk about replacing the crystal on a watch. Batteries can be underestimated as to what needs to be done. A lot of clients come in and they say, it's just a battery. All I did was just pop the back and put the new battery in, run down to the local convenience store and get a battery. A couple different things need to go into factor if you decide to end up doing it yourself. Number one is if you break the seal of the watch, you need to end up replacing the gasket in the back of the watch itself. Number two is the fact that if you leave any debris, fingerprints, moisture to the inside of the watch, it's kind of like scum in a bathtub. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to at some point in time affect or damage the watch itself. So we try to be as careful as we possibly can to opening and being inside of a watch. And I'm actually an accredited quartz technician, so I do all quartz movement repairs here in store. We do have another certified watchmaker that works off the premises and has been a subcontractor for us for 28 years. He is fantastic. He does some of the more intricate work that we have. We have clients that bring in the Pateks or the Piagets or the Vacheron Constantines, Rolexes, or some of the other high-end watches, and we entrust those watches to him, and he does a fabulous job. But the majority of the repairs are done for watches in store, and most of them are fairly simple if you know what you're actually doing. And in this particular case, we have a watch in front of us that two things have actually happened. We have a battery that is dead on the watch itself, but we also have a crack on the crystal, which is allowing moisture to the inside of the watch. Now, even though I said that your environment a second ago and everything needs to be as sterile and as clean as possible, and I try to do that with my work area when I'm opening a watch itself, just forgive the fingers, they're permanently stained from the other work that I end up doing also. So, first thing that we're going to end up doing is that we need to release the band, which just allows me working space to get into the watch itself. This is a special wrench that's actually made for this particular watch, and we just open it up, we dial it into the openings itself, and we're able to go into the watch itself. So I'm actually about into it, and I'm able to pop my back off of the watch itself. Now on the very edge, you can see the battery is actually just sitting right there. On the very edge, this is a fairly simple one. I'm just going to pop that battery out of there. This was simple. That was an easy one to end up doing. Most watches end up having a battery harness or something that actually protects the battery and keeps it into play itself. Next thing you need to do is take out the stem of the watch, because I need to pull the movement of the watch to get to the crystal. So we're usually able to just pull that out, but if it doesn't come immediately, I can go to this little plastic gasket over to the side, pull that out, and just pull the watch directly out. Now you can end up seeing that the broken crystal is a little bit more prominent to the watch. We generally, when I am doing these and removing a crystal from the watch, I'll move my other parts off to the side, and I'll get another soft cloth and actually put my fingers over the piece, because sometimes the glass will shatter and it can end up getting into the fingers. So this particular case, I was able to push and was able to get the crystal to come out all in one movement. So now we have the crystal out of the watch. We need to decide what crystal we actually have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little leverage gauge. I'm going to measure across. We're basically 22.5 millimeters on a crystal. This particular crystal is very thick. So I've taken that into account. I probably have, 1,000 crystals on hand in the store itself, and ones that are different depths of measurement and across the top. knowing that this was a thick crystal and for the time that we have, I have already pretty much pre-measured and understood my variable to that. So now we have a new crystal that we're just going to actually pour out, just like that. And I'm going to reach over the camera 1 second, because what I need is a little piece of tissue, because I try not to touch the crystal if I possibly can. So I want to get this as clean as I possibly can, even though it was right outside the factory bag. I'm able to actually make sure that there is no other moisture, no dust or anything of that nature on the crystal. Before I do anything else, I'm going to go around the inside seam of it, make sure that there is no other debris from the glass. That would discourage the work that we're doing, and a proper seal. And I'll go in with my towel to make sure that there is no other debris also. Now, most crystals, when I have to put them in, require a UV cement that's very similar to the cement that you would use to end up putting a filling in or crown on and under a UV light. But this one has a self-sealing center, so it actually has a nylon gasket that's built into the watch itself, and after close examination I was able to see that that gasket's in great shape. So what we are going to do is we're going to get our new crystal. We are going to put it right on top of the piece itself. I kind of give it just a little bit of pressure, but then I'm going to take it under a little press, and I'm going to finish pressing it right down into play. And I have done that. And now the crystal is completely level. It's even to what I needed it to be. Make sure that, again, that there is no debris or anything of that nature on it. I'm going to get a little aspirator. I'm going to go to the inside, blow any. You can use condensed air. I just happen to like the little aspirator because I can control the amount of pressure that I'm putting into it. So we have our same piece of tissue again. I'm going to pick the movement back up. I'm going to do the same thing with the aspirator. Make sure that no dust ended up getting on the movement or on the face of the watch itself that can get lodged into the hands. And we're going to do the same to the movement, just to make sure. I rotate the movement so that I line it back up to where the stem is going to re-enter the watch itself. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that jewelers that they make. I use a high pressure silicone seal. So before I put a stem back into a watch itself, I will get a little bit of that silicone, and not putting it on the stem itself, I will put it underneath very liberally, underneath the crown of the watch itself. Leave the rest out to the side for a minute because I will need that too. So I have inspected the stem. It's very clean. It's free of all moisture and rust. And I put the stem back in until it clicks into place. I go back, I look at my battery that I ended up having. It's a 364, one of the most common batteries that we use. The one thing about batteries that I will tell clients is the fact that I order weekly on batteries. Batteries don't have shelf life with me. I will try to run out of a battery before I just keep reordering and having batteries that could possibly sit in-house for a long time. So my fingers did end up touching the back of that battery. So I'm going to use that same piece of tissue, and I'm just going to go on the back of it and wipe it off. Now, that same silicone that we talked about earlier, I'm going to get it because we need it for the edge of the watch itself, the casement,
and I looked at the little rubber gasket that's already on this, and the gasket's in perfect shape. Most of the time, if I see any type of distortion, I'll go ahead and put a new gasket on and pull it off. But in this case, all I was having to do was to replace the silicone that's going to go around the side. Before I put that back case on, there was a little tiny plastic gasket that keeps the movement from actually sliding around inside the watch. It can be a little bit cumbersome to end up getting in, but this one seems to be a little bit tricky. There it goes. You can see how it just snapped. You don't have to ever force anything. If it, and since I've already touched the movement, okay. I put the threads on. I make sure that the threads are even, and it screws on gently. Again, I don't force it. I'm making sure that I let the watch and the case work for it. And then we get the case opener, and we put a lot of pressure because I want to make sure that that seals as tight as it can possibly be. And we look back on the other side, and now we see that the time is actually working, and you can see through the watch. And this is a finished watch crystal and doing a battery. So for those that want to try to do things themselves, that is fine, but a lot of times they end up paying more money after they bring it in and say, I lost a little part, or it's not working, or I got moisture in it 2 days after doing that. And we don't want that to end up happening when basically most batteries cost $10 to put in. It's best to end up protecting your investment that you have. Some watches do cost more. We do a lot of bomber CAs. They can cost up to $40, but we do them in-house instead of you having to send it back and have the heavy shipping charges that you have. The SEMAs, many other watches that require a little bit more attention and back and front gaskets replaced out of it. But if you ever have any questions as to your watch repair, you know where to end up coming, and we thank you very much.